Hey there again, it's Douglas Scott McCarron. Um, I've really noticed, I think I've mentioned in one that I've taken on losing weight. And I've managed to lose 12 pounds. Yay! Gotta keep going. But I'm journaling a lot. And I'm realizing, this may not be a big surprise, but a lot of the way I think influences the stories I make, the scripts I write, the movies I like. It's kind of obvious because we all look for what we are in our heads and in our minds. But it just really kind of came across when I was going through this process, and it's kind of a touch and go kind of things because movies are also kind of a fantasy world where you make up things. But I've noticed watching other people's movies and people who make movies, it's like there's this pattern that almost all movies are in. There's this one act, two act, three act. There's the structure of the hero and the opposing character, and on and on and on. And people, they want to be writers of movies, but they don't really express themselves. I don't know if that's really important in making movies for everybody, but to me, it seems to me you should be bringing yourself and sharing yourself with other people. I know you're going to the movies to have a fantasy and escape, or, experience something you don't normally experience. Like Saving Private Ryan, most of us haven't landed on a highly defended beach and gotten shot at and fought our way off it. Those poor people who did it, thank you for doing that, getting rid of the Nazi party. But anyway, I've had a couple people ask me why I'm doing these personal shares while talking about movies, and it's because I think sharing ourselves personally is important, and it's also when you put the personal things in it, it makes it different from just this, one, two, three acts pattern of everybody does the same story. I've heard people tell me there's only 7 stories, and they just keep getting remade over and over, and I don't really believe that. Now there's the hero story, there's the fall in love story, which is kind of a version of the hero story. But, what's really interesting there is why all these stories have so much in common. It's something about you and, I've talked about this cocoon that defines us and how we look at the world. And I suspect those 7 stories are all part of that generalized cocoon that human beings live in. I was really struck, this is my journal here, and I was really struck how set very early on in my life, um, I decided that, or it's not really that I decided, I felt very much like I was unwanted and unloved, and my folks didn't want me. Um, Partially because my mom told me 4 times that she had a miscarriage, and if that hadn't happened, I never would have been born. And I was just lucky. So that, kind of influenced me. And then in my mind, my dad and my mom and my sister criticized me all the time. But how much of that's true and how much they criticized me some, and then, my inner machine started chewing it up and repeating it over and over. And to me, I was constantly criticized by them, but perhaps not. But I know this feeling of I don't matter and it's futile because I'll try and do something and it doesn't seem to take off or nobody's interested. Really does kind of possess me a lot, which leads to I'm overeating because it's like one of the few pleasures I've got. It may also be why it is I write about a serial killer, or I write about, I have one that's about a movie that's about Pontius Pilate and having power, and then there's this, guy out there in the desert who's causing trouble. And it's from Pilate's point of view, where he thinks he's the one who's going to go down in history, and that weirdo Jesus guy is, who's going to ever hear of him. And just kind of the irony that it switched around over who's the important person. But it's it really does interest me watching what people write in the various movie groups I have joined on Facebook. Whether there's how do I make a movie? I want to become famous. Who do I need to pay? How do I become a famous actor? And it's just this whole mindset of, for some reason, they have to become famous. Me, I just like to come check out A Bit Twisted and help support it. Support, independent. Also, I have a black female, so it's people are always talking about they want diversity. Well, that's exactly why I picked her, because I want diversity in my movies. But it's just it's really interesting just how my internal dialogue colors things. And I think that's why people do these 3-act plays, is it's more they want to write and be known as a writer rather than they want to share themselves. And I happen to think there's a market. I think it's far more compelling watching somebody share themselves in their movies. There's a lot of people want to just escape, and so they don't particularly want to get into a deep thing. I also know it's important. Movies aren't therapy. One of the things that's I heard an acting coach say one time that's really quite true is, if you try to play yourself in a movie, it becomes all about you. You have to be able to play the character. So, for instance, I used to be very self-loathing, very dark, very mean, and I'm not that anymore. I've become very calm and peaceful. I could probably play a very dark, mean, angry guy pretty easily. But when I was dark and angry, it would have been way too close. I wouldn't have been acting. I wouldn't have been in the character. I would have been venting me. And I've had a couple actors like that who they try to play themselves, and then they get mad because, I'm trying to direct them to play the character. But it's just I don't know if people go for this 3-act thing because they want to be famous actors and make a living at it, but also people kind of want to hide in it and not really show themselves. And it kind of goes around. Maybe not everybody wants to have personal connection with the people the various producers and directors. People may just want to show up and watch fantasy things and get out of their life for a couple hours. But even that, the fact you have that attitude, really got to address it. I'm 66 and I'm looking at my being overweight and getting upset at 4 or 5 kind of set me in a path of eating too much and trying to avoid and hide from people and not sharing, and voila, 60 years later, I'm overweight. And up until a couple of years ago, I really had the I can't share thing down pretty well. Now I want to. So, I don't know, this may be kind of rambling, but I just wanted to share all this. And, so I am losing weight. Maybe in the next one I'll share some of the journal entries and just kind of talk about them. But I think that's kind of the state of the way movies are, is they're kind of like music. The musicians want to really give their feel and their art, but everybody else around just wants to talk about the product. And it's really kind of weird when that happens, when you're the musician. But eventually you just start writing the product. That's why people say someone sold out or they lost their edges. They're like, that's what the supporting system wants. And in the end, as horrible as it is to say, the entertainment business isn't about the artist. It's about the lawyers and the managers and the investors, because there's lots of artists to pick from. Now, there are some actors, who somehow have a team with them where they can keep putting out movies. I'll just pick one as Will Smith. Whatever you think of Will Smith, he has a team. They have writers, they have producers, they have a very specific way of doing things, how to use CGI, how to write the story. And a lot of his movies look very different, but they're pretty much the same movie. Most of them are pretty good. I kind of like Will Smith. And there are other actors that do that. But you have to really get yourself into an interesting niche there in order to pull that off. Okay, anyway, I hope I'm not rambling on. I want to share with you, be human with you. And take care, everybody. Stay healthy.